Welcome to the Aboriginal channel. This episode will be another American Indians Were Not Hebrew episode. So I asked the computer, how old is the Hebrew Israelite religion? It says as early as the 10th century BCE. So it's about 3,000 years old. This pyramid in Egypt, in Dozier, built by Imhotep, is about 5,000 years old. And right here it says archaeologists have discovered the world's oldest pyramids on the Atlantic coast of southern Brazil. Pause. So if you want to know what that looks like, that means on the Atlantic coast, southern Brazil. So that's right down here in the water. The oldest pyramids in the world is in the water right here. But it goes on to say that like the pyramids of Egypt and Mexico, the South American ones seem to have been built for religious purposes. Now I'm going to do one more correlation between aspect of the religions between Egypt and the Western Hemisphere. There's a ancient Egyptian, Ampu is the Greek name of the god of death, mummification involving the afterlife, cemeteries, tombs, and the underworld. In ancient Egypt, religion usually depicted as a canine or a man with a canine head. So basically, this is the god of the spirit life or the underworld, basically the spiritual god. It says he attended the weighing scale during the weighing of the heart, in which it was determine whether a soul would be allowed to enter the realm of the dead. So in the Western Hemisphere, they have another dog called Xolocantil. Now, when you go look at the history of Xolo, it says that long regarded as guardians and protectors, the indigenous peoples believed that the Xolo would safeguard the home from evil spirits as well as intruders. It says they have been found in burial sites of both the Mayan and the Toltec. It says right here that they are also the national dog of Mexico. Their value in ancient native cultures is evidenced by their frequent appearance in art and artifacts. Right, this is the one right here. It says in ancient times, the Zolos were often sacrificed and then buried with their owners to act as a guide to the soul on its journey to the underworld. It says that the dog, the archaeological evidence has found the dog dating similar dogs to over 3,500 years ago. So this dog is over 3,000 years old, which would be older than the Hebrew religion. And in the most of the religion over in the Western Hemisphere, they use the dog as their spiritual guide. That's why they would bury it, kill it, and bury it with the whoever its owner was. And some might question that there was a lot of different belief systems going on in the Western Hemisphere, and I believe that to be true as well. But I'm going to give an example to say that there was a set foundation for everybody in this hemisphere to go off of. So right here in Haiti, they have a god called Papa Legba, which is this guy right here. Says is a Loa in Haitian voodoo. Now, a Loa is a god in the voodoo code of Haiti. It says Papa Legba is a Loa in Haitian voodoo who serves as the intermediary between the Loa and humanity. Pause. Now, we got to tap into our comprehension level on this one real quick and correlate it back to Anubis and Xolo and the religion of the Western Hemisphere, which is also connected to that of Egypt and other places as well. He says he stands at a spiritual crossroads and gives or denies permission to speak with the spirits of Guiani and is believed to speak all human languages. In Haiti, he is the great allocutioner. That means the great public speaker. Legba facilitates communication, speech, and understanding. He is commonly associated with dogs. So I'm going to go through this one more time right quick. So Anubis says he attended the weighing scale during the weighing of heart, in which it was determined whether a soul would be allowed to enter the realm of the dead. And Xolo right here, which it says is a pre-European Xolo, were considered sacred dogs by the Aztecs, Toltecs, Maya, and other groups. So it says they are also useful companion animals. According to Aztec mythology, and the god Azozo made the Azotocantli, the dog right there, from a sliver of the bone of life, from which all mankind was made. Xolo gave his gift to man with the instruction to guard it with his life, and in exchange it would guide man through the dangers of Mictlan, the world of death, towards the evening star in the heavens. And Papa Legba, which stands and is the intermediary between the Loa and humanity, he stands stands at a spiritual crossroads and gives or denies permission to speak with the spirits of Guyani, and he is commonly associated with dogs. Presumably, the dog that he is most commonly associated with would be Solo right here. So we know that the cultures correlate one to another. So we're going to look at this from another angle. So we said that the Dosher pyramid is basically right here in northeastern Egypt, right here. So I'm going to attempt to show the correlation between the pyramids there, the ones under the water right here off Brazil, also other ones in the water right here by Bermuda Triangle and elsewhere, and also the existing ones that are on the land here. I'm going to try to connect all these. And how I'm firstly going to do that is by going in this book right here called Atlantis, the Antediluvian World by Ignatius Donnelly from 1882. So it says that this book is an attempt to demonstrate several distinct and novel propositions. These are that there once existed in the Atlantic Ocean, opposite the mouth of the Mediterranean Sea, a large island which was the remnant of an Atlantic continent and known to the world as Atlantis. That the description of this island given by Plato has been long supposed fable but veritably true. That Atlantis was the region where man first rose from a state of barbarism to civilization. Pause. Now that's an important one. Remember that Atlantis was the first place in the world that man rose from a state of barbarism to civilization. Remember that, because we're going back in the timeline to before any of the man-made religions ever existed, back before pre-Egyptian civilization. Then it goes on to say that it became in the course of ages a populous and mighty nation, from whose overflowings the shores of the Gulf of Mexico, the Mississippi River, the Amazon, the Pacific coast of South America, the Mediterranean, the west coast of Europe and Africa, the Baltic, the Black Sea, and the Caspian were populated by civilized nations. So we know where the Gulf of Mexico, Mississippi River, the Amazon, the Pacific coast of South America is. But we're going to jump over to the Mediterranean, the west coast of Europe and Africa, the Baltic, the Black Sea, and the Caspian. We're going to look at that. That area is basically besides the west coast of Africa and Europe right here, where the Phoenicians and the Moors are. Back here is where the Caspian and the Black Sea is at. And this water right here is the Mediterranean. So this pyramid right here, this step pyramid, 5,000 years old, is right here. And when you look at that number, don't necessarily right away compare it to another number. Let's just say that even after this flood and the continent went away, the pyramid was built so the culture continued for thousands of years after the Great Flood, which we're going to look at right here at livescience.com. It says bursting ice dam flooded the ancient ocean. Near the end of the last ice age, 8,000 years ago, an ice dam on the North America's east coast broke, releasing a torrent of fresh water 7 times more voluminous than all the Great Lakes combined. So the west coast of North America would be right here where the snow would be. Greenland and up New Netherlands right here. So it's saying that cap melted right there 8,000 years ago. So before 8,000 years ago, before it melted, there was a continent here that melt caused to flood. So the culture of Atlantis existed before 8,000 years ago. And that is where it is the longest existing culture and religion on the face of the earth. It goes on to say that it all rushed into the Atlantic Ocean over the course of only a few months. At around the same time, ocean circulation worldwide slowed to a crawl, plunging Europe into a second ice age that lasted centuries. Scientists have long suspected the two events were linked, and now they have the evidence from sediment core samples to prove it. It says the finding, detailed in the June 30th issue of the journal Science, provides the first clear evidence that the so-called North American lake burst was the trigger that slowed ocean circulation and cooled the climate about 8,200 years ago. That right there lets us know that the ice melt was enormous enough to have flooded the island of Atlantis. And to correlate that 8,000 years in the prehistory of Egypt spans the period from the earliest human settlement to the beginning of the early dynastic period around 31 BC, starting with the first pharaohs. It says the pre-dynastic era is traditionally equivalent to the final part of the Neolithic period beginning circa 6 6000 BC and ended in the Naquata third period, 3000 BC. So that's 6000 BC is 8,000 years ago, which means immediately following that flood, the prehistory of Egypt began. So they say. But it said the overflowings of Atlantis was this region right here, the Mediterranean, which is Egypt, Libya, all this. Morocco, Turkey, the Black Sea up here, and the Caspian Sea right here, where you got Georgia, Iran, Iraq, Syria, all this right here. But let's look back at this map for just 1 second. Up here, way up top, where it circles at, was frozen. So the water that flooded, or this ice cap that fell into the water, or however it happened, the water wasn't able to go up top. It came down in this area. So the first place it would have flooded would have been Atlantis right here. Now, common sense would say, since a people go back, way back when remnants of the culture and religion from them times or that time would have carried on throughout the ages, which we're seeing right now. And I'm saying right here that before Europeans invaded the Western Hemisphere, a lot of what was practiced here was remnants of the dominant culture from thousands upon thousands of years ago. So let's do one more culture correlation right here at EgyptianPrivateTourGuide.com. Egyptian facts, ancient Egypt gods, Wadjet, serpent goddess. Ancient Egypt gods, Wadjet, the serpent goddess. Among the ancient Egyptian gods, there is a unique one that required a lot of studying, which is goddess Wadjet, the serpent goddess. Wadjet was one of the most famous goddesses of ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians have known it in the pre-dynastic period. That means back here it says the pre-dynastic era was circa 6000 to 3150 BCE. So about 8,000 years ago, which means it's part of the culture that survived that flood from before 8,000 years ago. So it was around before the flood and after. That's in Egypt. In America, they have what is called the Serpent Mound, which is 1,348 foot long, 3 foot high prehistoric effigy mound on a plateau of the Serpent Mound crater along Ohio Brush Creek in Adams County, Ohio. And it's over 2,000 years old, they say. And also right here at nativelanguages.org, horned serpent says the horned serpents are a type of mythological freshwater serpent common to many tribes of the eastern United States and Canada. It says right here that indeed horned serpent mythology may trace back to ancestors of eastern Native American tribes such as the Hopewell, Mississippian, and other mound builder civilizations, as stylized serpent motifs have been found in many of their earthworks and artifacts, which bear some resemblance to the horned serpents of historical Native American tribes. And over here it gives you a little list of the names of tribes and what they call the serpent. Like this one, the Blackfoot called it the big water snake, or the Choctaws call it the Sint Holo, or the Micmac called it the Jipikma. And in previous videos I talked about the Mayans feathered serpent god. And down in Haiti, in the Caribbean right here, it says Dubala was a voodoo god in serpent form who is credited with creating the world and the gods and is therefore the oldest of the gods. It says down here that Dubala is often called the most important god of the voodoo religion in the Caribbean. So you see right here he's a snake and he has the pearls on. On Wikipedia right here it says Dubala is believed to be the sky father, primordial creator of all life. And again it says Dubala, also spelled Dambala, Haitian Creole, is one of the most important of all the Loa spirits in the Haitian voodoo and Louisiana voodoo traditions. And also, in regards to the Egyptian goddess, Wadjet, the serpent goddess, it says that Wadjet was always represented in the shape of a standing serpent. It formed with goddess Nakbi, the female eagle, the famous dual Nepti, as each one was standing on a hemisphere and represented the symbol of Upper and Lower Egypt. So before Lower and Upper Egypt became what they are today, this was the dominant culture there. It should also be noted that Widget and a female eagle is part of the culture. Now, if you look over here in America, in Georgia, we have what is called the Eagle Rock Mound, which is an archaeological site in Putnam County, Georgia, estimated to have been constructed 1000 BC to AD 1000. So it's over 3,000 years old. So that would mean that when people were over in the Eastern Hemisphere Hemisphere, creating the Hebrew Israelite religion, Indians in the Western Hemisphere were building animal effigies out of the earth to coincide with their culture and religion. And notice how Damballa, the Caribbean creator god, was labeled one of the most important gods of the culture. And in Egypt, Wajet, the serpent goddess, is one of the most famous goddesses of ancient Egypt. So there's a correlation there. Through the history books, which has all been a lie. So therefore, if it's a lie, then what's the truth? If it's a lie, then what's the truth?